Readiness to learn. Learning occurs more efficiently if a person is ready to learn. This readiness results from a combination of growth and experience. Children cannot learn to read until their eyes and nervous systems are mature enough. They also must have a sufficient background of spoken words and pre-reading experience with letters and pictures. Motivation. Psychologists and educators also recognize that learning is best when the learner is motivated to learn. External rewards are often used to increase motivation to learn. Motivation aroused by external rewards is called extrinsic motivation. In other cases, people are motivated simply by the satisfaction of learning. Motivation that results from such satisfaction is called intrinsic motivation. This type of motivation can be even more powerful than extrinsic motivation. Punishment, particularly the threat of punishment, is also used to control learning. Experiments have shown that intrinsic and extrinsic rewards serve as more effective aids to learning than punishment does. This is due largely to two factors. 1. Learners can recognize the direct effects of reward more easily than they can the effects of punishment, and 2. The byproducts of reward are more favorable. For example, reward leads to liking the rewarded task, but punishment leads to dislike of the punished deed. Psychologists also look at the motivation of learning from the point of view of the learner. They tend to talk about success and failure, rather than reward and punishment. Success consists of reaching a goal that learners set for themselves. Failure consists of not reaching the goal. An ideal learning situation is one in which learners set progressively more difficult goals for themselves, and keep at the task until they succeed. Skill learning and verbal learning. Through research, psychologists have discovered some general rules designed to help a person learn. The following rules apply particularly to learning skills. 1. Within a given amount of practice time, you can usually learn a task more easily if you work in short practice sessions spaced widely apart, instead of longer sessions held closer together. 2. You can learn many tasks best by imitating experts. 3. You should perform a new activity yourself, rather than merely watch or listen to someone. 4. You learn better if you know immediately how good your performance was. 5. You should practice difficult parts of a task separately and then try to incorporate them into the task as a whole. 2 additional rules apply mainly to verbal learning. 1. The more meaningful the task, the more easily it is learned. You will find a task easier to learn if you can relate it to other things you have learned. 2. A part of a task is learned faster when it is distinctive. When studying a book, for example, underlining a difficult passage in red makes the passage distinctive and easier to learn. Transfer of training. Psychologists and educators recognize that new learning can profit from old learning because learning one thing helps in learning something else. This process is called transfer of training. Transfer of training can be either positive or negative. Suppose a person learns 2 tasks. After learning task 1, the person might find task 2 easier or harder. If task 2 is easier, then the old learning has been a help and positive transfer of training has occurred. If task 2 is harder, the old learning is a hindrance and negative transfer has occurred. Whether transfer is positive or negative depends on the relationship between the 2 tasks. Positive transfer occurs when the 2 tasks have similar stimuli and both stimuli elicit the same response. For example, if we know the German word grows, it is easier to learn the French word grows because both words mean large. In this case, similar stimuli, gross and grows, elicit the same response, large. Negative transfer occurs when the 2 tasks have similar stimuli, which elicit different responses. After you learn the German word gras, grass, it is harder to learn the French word gras, fat. The words are similar, but they have different meanings. In this case, similar stimuli, gras and gras, elicit different responses. Psychologists believe new learning can profit from old learning because of 3 factors. 1. Positive transfer of training. 2. General principles that we learn in one task and apply to another task. And 3. Good study habits that we learn in one task which help us learn another task.